Hello. Presentation. Okay. Good morning, all. So, so we'll start with the frequency response. The previous things and previous in the previous lecture, whatever covered, a quick recap, and then slowly we'll complete all the slides. Okay. So right from starting from the first slide. Yeah. At any point, if the slides are not moving or any issue, then please text me. So open in your second slide if you see 1 minute. Where is this one? Presenting. Okay. So so this chapter is basically the frequency response analysis. The frequency response analysis we are doing because we need to know which capacitance dominate the nature of the circuit and what frequency. So till now, whatever we have covered in the previous chapter, we have done low frequency or the DC analysis. In low frequency means only the CGS was taking the role, but as we move to the higher frequency, the small value capacitance, the parasitics like CGD becomes active, and they also dominate the frequency response characteristic. So it's the second slide not moving. So now in the frequency response characteristic at it is shown, the drain. Wait. As in the frequency response characteristic, you can see the CGT part. This CGT part is dominating. Wait a minute. Whether my slides are moving? Okay. Okay. So in the second slide, if you see, there is a roll off in the gain response. These are due to the capacitance which are becoming active. Some are at low and some are at high. So here the CGD, majorly in this chapter we will study effect of CGD. CGD becomes active when we are moving to the higher frequency. And as also we can see, generally we give like example for common source, we give input at the gate and output we are taking from the drain terminal. So there is a not along the channel, but there is a path also from the gate to drain through CGT. This means signal is also getting distributed through a feed forward path. Now since there is a feed forward path, definitely it will also contribute to the gain and other characteristics. So we need to see the effect of CGD. Now when we see the effect of CGD and when we write the loop equations at the input or output side, then if I write at the input side loop equation, then it will result in the equation which will be a form of in the V out also, or the drain equation, because to CGD the signal can flow. Similarly, if we write equation at the output section, the drain section, then also we will see the same effect. So this means when we will write input and output equations, in both the equations the common factor will come, that is CGD. So again we need to form the third equation, where we will, because we have three variables, we have to equate any one variable, so two equation two variable, then you can easily solve. To remove such type of errors, we go for certain theorems. The first theorem is your Miller's theorem. Okay, so what does Miller's theorem says? Miller's theorem says that if a component is common between the two nodes, let's say we are talking about nodes, between the two nodes, then it can be decomposed into the network equivalent, where which will result in two different impedance, Z1 and Z2. Okay, where Z1 will be Z by the original impedance divided by 1 minus AB, and Z2 will be Z by 1 minus 1 by AB. Now here the thing to remember is we are talking about nodes. Whenever we are talking about nodes, we are dealing with the voltages, so we have to take in terms of V in and V out. So whenever V out and V in is coming in picture, the gain will be expressed in form of AV. Okay, so that was the decomposition, and then decomposition verification is shown here. So in the fourth slide, there is one application of Miller's theorem to the simple voltage divider network. So in the voltage divider network, if we see, so in the voltage divider network, if you see, if I apply the Miller's theorem, okay, if I apply the Miller's theorem, then what is happening here? If we are, okay, you have the slides, you can go to your slides from your respective this one. I will explain from slide numbers. Okay. So as you can see, when we apply Miller's theorem in this voltage divider network, what is happening that at the output section we are getting one negative impedance. Okay, so this negative impedance, due to this negative impedance, this is not a valid decomposition, because this negative impedance represent that there is some type of oscillations can be there. But the circuit is simple a passive network, and there cannot be any oscillation because there is no active element. This means here Miller's theorem is not applicable. This means there the Miller's theorem must have some restrictions. So what are those restrictions? The restriction is we can apply Miller's theorem with when the signal is not in the main path. This means, like for example, you see this, the main signal path is this path, and Miller's theorem I am applying the parallel to this. So this is a valid platform to apply the Miller's theorem. And also this, using this Miller's theorem, we can calculate different characteristic in a very frequent way. For example, this was the amplifier where we have to calculate the input impedance Rin, and to calculate Rin, we have seen this R0 is coming in at the Y is the output and X is the input. So R0 is common, so here I can apply Miller's theorem because the signal path is through M1 and this is the parallel path, so it is a valid application. And here we applied the Miller's theorem, and then we decompose into form Z1 and Z2, where the bottom will be Z1 and top will be Z2. So it is very important to decide whenever we decompose in the, whenever we will use Miller's theorem, that which is the input port and which is the output port. Okay, because input and output port will decide like which one will be Z1 and which one will be Z2. So we are traveling from this input terminal to this output terminal. So at the bottom part will be your Z1 and top part will be your Z2. Then accordingly we will apply the Miller's theorem. So in this way, what is the advantage happening? If we need to calculate what is the effective input resistance seen, so without going to the small signal, directly we can predict. So directly predicting means from here if we see, so in this section 1 by Gm plus Gmb will be the effective resistance of the transistor, and then additionally the Z1 will be coming in parallel to this value. So total effective resistance I can directly write in form of this, but the condition is you should know what should be the gain of this one. So gain of this one already we have derived earlier classes, that gain will be Gm R0 parallel to Rd, but here Rd is infinite, so directly we can write Gm into R0, okay, with a negative sign. So this was one another example. In this example, This was a simple differential amplifier application design, and here we need to calculate what is the effective capacitance seen at the input X and at the output V out. So using Miller's, we directly written the CF in form of CF, the input capacitance and the output capacitance. When we know this input and output capacitance, then we can directly write the your voltage transfer function, which we'll see in further slides. Okay, so this way the Miller was helpful in doing the quick calculations. Coming to the seventh slide, now we have taken the Miller's theorem between the two nodes, but what happened? A component is common between the input loop and the output loop. Then we apply at that place the dual of Miller's theorem. Dual of Miller's theorem just similar to that with the change in the form of representation. Like if the two loops are there, I1 and I2 current flowing, and Y is the common component, then we can decompose again in this form where Y1 will be equals to Y by 1 minus AI and Y2 will be 1 minus 1 by AI. It's just similar to your Miller's theorem. Okay. So based on the requirement, we apply Miller or dual of Millers. Now coming to the main part, in whenever there will be a capacitance and equivalent resistance coming in parallel, then we can compute the RC time constant at that particular node. So when we calculate the RC time constant, what does that mean? What this means that we are estimating the pole of that particular point. Like you have studied the control system. In the control system you have gone through your pole and zero analysis. The location of poles, what is the role of location of poles? It describes the stability of the system. Okay, so based on the location of pole, we also decide if there are multiple poles, then poles nearer to the origin, we say it is a dominant pole and it will dominate the nature of the circuit. So if we, and further also we, if zeros is there, then what is the impact of zero on pole? So all these analysis are also important in circuit analysis. So how to roughly estimate, because circuit can be a complex and we don't know at what form we can decompose. So we do some rough calculation of poles and zeros. It's just basically to ensure that my circuit is under the stable condition or not, whether it is a stable system or unstable system. If it is unstable, this means some oscillations will be there, we cannot control the response. So we need to take care of all these factors. So the pole zero analysis is important in circuit analysis. So suppose this is a cascade of networks in the slide number 8, the cascade of networks A1 and A2, and with some RC. This one is the resistance and capacitance are there. So in the first sort, if we want to write the transfer function, then we can divide in three parts. The first part is the gain, open loop gain. In the numerator part will come divide by 1 plus SRC. SRC means RC is the time constant. And then what will be the pole? The pole will be given by S equals to minus of 1 by RC. So if you see in all the three transfer function, at the end we have no amplifier, so the gain is 1. In all the three transfer function, the pole is lying in the left half plane with the negative sign. This means all the locations are in the left half. This means my circuit is in the stable condition. If my pole moves to the right side, this means circuit becomes unstable, and we need to provide some type of feedback such that this location of pole should move to left half plane. So the analysis is important. So in this way we predict the roughly the transfer function and then your the location of poles. So coming to slide number 9, what happens in this? Can we write directly the equation like A1 divided by 1 plus SRC? No, here we cannot apply, because here the component common to input and output is coming. So what we have to do, first we have to apply Miller's theorem here. After the decomposition, then we can do this estimation. Okay. Now, in the slide number 8, we started with the common source amplifier. So, common source amplifier, if we see, we are taking the response at the high frequency. When we talk about high frequency, we cannot neglect the other parasitics. For example, here CGD is taken in consideration. Now, when the CGD is taken in consideration, so what we see here, input is X, output is V out. Between output and input X, there is a CGD component common. Okay, this means here I can apply Miller's theorem because the signal path is through M1 transistor towards the output, and my feed forward path is through CGT. So they are not coming in, they are not clashing. So I can easily apply Miller's theorem here. So when I apply Miller's theorem here, so what happens, this CGT will break according to the relation of Z by 1 minus AB at the input section, and at the output section it will be, yeah, so at the output section it will be Z by 1 minus 1 by AV. Okay, so now in order to predict the input and output nodes, what is the effective seen capacitance, we should know what is AV. Now AV, we know this is a common source amplifier, simple RD is there. So AV means DC analysis, so all the capacitor will be open, so gain will be minus GM into RD. Okay, so that will be your AV. So at the input what will happen, CGT into 1 minus AV, because it is a capacitance, so Z will be 1 by SC. So equating this, you will get this CGS and the effective capacitance will become in parallel to this one. So they both will get added up in the input and also added up in the output. Here also you see we have to decide which will be Z1 and which will be Z2. Now we are moving from X to V out. This means X will be giving you Z1 and V out will be giving you Z2. So we computed X and V out capacitances. Now according to the location or calculation of poles, it says if any capacitance and resistance are coming at a particular node with respect to ground, a common, then we can by doing the product of these two, we can estimate the pole. So what will be the pole at the input section? It will be the product of RS into whatever capacitance in CGS into 1 minus AB into CGT. Similarly at the output, what will be the pole? RD, because this VDD will be grounded. So RD into whatever output capacitance is seen. So in the slide number 11, if you see, we have written in terms of omega in and omega out. Omega in means input, what is the at input frequency it is operating, and what will be the at the output omega out. And then the general representation I can write, that is A by 1 plus SRC. So that is A is here what? This is a common source amplifier with a resistive load. So A will be minus GMRD, and what will be the location 1 plus src means 1 by omega, so 1 plus omega in and omega out. So what does this transfer function, this is called your transfer function. So what does this represent? Okay, this is the circuit which is having two poles. One pole is that this one 1 by RC, and another pole is 1 by RD. So here we can conclude that the number of capacitances at each node will contribute one pole to the system. Okay, so from this rough analysis we can do the number of capacitances will give you the number of poles. Okay, so now we estimated the poles, but here we cannot get the information of zero, because in the standard representation we have not denoted how to estimate the zero. So we'll do now the exact analysis and we'll check whether any zero was existing in the circuit or not. So coming to slide number 12. Now in order to predict the zero, we'll start with the first we'll start with the same circuit doing the small signal model. Now at the, you can see in the slide number 12 at the bottom figure, this is a small signal model. Okay, so in the small signal model, now we all know how to draw the small signal model. This is RS is here, this is represented by equivalent this one model. The only thing new is here is the CGT, introduction of CGT between X and V out. So there is X and V out, and CGT is coming in this common path. So now when we'll write the equation, you see first equation is at the input node, Vx minus V in by RS, this line, then this one, and then this one. Three terms will come here. Okay, then at the output we will write, so one will be this one, first term, second term, and this will be your third term, and this will be your fourth term. So this is your second equation. Now if we see in both the equation, Vx is coming in common. So here we have three variables and two equations. So what to do now? We have to make one variable, we have to remove one variable in order to calculate the result. So what I will do here now, from here I will calculate Vx, and then this Vx I will substitute in this equation. Then I will get the transfer function. So you see here some calculation gets increased if we are going through exact analysis. So this was an example of simple single stage common source amplifier. But as we increase the number of components in this, these equations will become more and more complex and you will get more number of variables. Then you have to find a way how to remove that unknown variables which are not required. So in that we do some approximations and assumptions, and that's why your theoretical results, theoretical analysis does not match with your practical analysis. Okay, so we got the transfer function here, v out by v in, and you see here, so we got this transfer function, and in the earlier slide the transfer function was somewhat different. So what is happening, new thing is here, we see here one capacitor, one zero is introduced here in the numerator part. Okay, so let's analyze. So before analyzing zero, first we'll look at the dominant pole matching, whether the dominant pole calculated using Miller and calculated using exact are similar or different. So coming to the analysis part, so for the analysis of this such complex denominator part, we do some approximations. Like suppose if a system is having two poles, which is represented in this form, 1 plus sy omega p1 into 1 plus omega sy 1 plus sy omega p2. So we can, if among these two poles, if any one pole is at the if any one of the pole is very small compared to other, then this product can be made equivalent to any one of the pole. This means here it is shown, if omega p1 is very less than omega p2, then what will happen, this will 1 by omega p2 will be very less than 1 by omega p1. Okay, so if we do this approximation and assuming one of the pole is very near to origin and one of the pole is very far away from the origin, then we can estimate that omega p1 will be equals to this product. Okay, like in the earlier slide here, omega p1 is this value. Okay, so the factor with s will be, the factor with s will be your omega p1. So this will be your omega p1. Okay, so we estimated omega p1, but remember we have considered that omega p1 is very less than omega p2. Okay, now from the Miller's theorem we have calculated omega in is equals to this value. This means this and this must be equal. So what, where is the difference coming? Difference coming is this particular part. So this particular part is very small compared to the other remaining part. So if we see the exact, if we compare the exact with the Miller, almost a similar result will come with a small deviation of the additional factor of Rd into Cgd plus Cdv. So in most of the calculation, this is neglected because drain to bulk is very small, and CGD also being small, the overall product is less compared to this, the gain G1 plus GMRD. Coming to slide 15. Now we have estimated omega p1. Then the question comes, what is omega p2? Because we should know also what is omega p2. So how to predict omega p2? So if you look at the transfer function is saying omega p1 into that this form, s squared divided by omega p1 into omega p2 is equals to 1 by rs rd into zeta. This means I can say here omega p1 omega p2 equals to 1 by rs rd into zeta. So just that substitution is done here. Zeta is substituted here. This is your zeta and rs rd. Okay, so we estimated what is omega p2, and we have also considered that omega p1 is very less than omega p2. Additional to that, if your cgs, the gate to source capacitance, is very greater than compared to this factor, then we can roughly estimate that omega p2 will be this one, which will be equal to this one. And from Miller's model we have calculated omega out also equals to this one. So this and this can be made equal. Now what is the conclusion coming here? The approximations done using Miller, the approximations done using Miller and the approximation done using your this exact model is similar when the conditions met are that when certain assumptions are done, like first is omega p1 very very less than omega p2, and this the cgs should be made very very high, then only I can say the exact is matching to the Miller's. This means from Miller's theorem we can estimate the nature, but we cannot guarantee the nature. However, using exact we can guarantee the nature. Okay. So in generally in the whenever we are designing any complex circuit using Miller, just we roughly estimate that whether my poles are lying at the appropriate near about or not, whether my system is stable or not. Other than that, no use of this Miller's theorem much. Okay. However, for the exact prediction of what will be the exact bandwidth or what is the exact location of pole, we have to go through your exact analysis. Okay, now coming to the zero, as we see here, the zero is also introduced, that is Gm by Cgt, which lie in the right half plane. And why this zero is added? Because there was a direct coupling of the input to the output through Cgt. Okay, so if we look at the architecture, I will give some hint here. No, so as I said, coming to slide 12, you see the figure, slide 12 figure. Number of capacitor will introduce the number of poles. So from the figure I will say there are two poles. Okay. Second, if there is any feed forward path from input to the output, there will be a zero. The number of feed forward path will introduce the number of zeros. Okay. Now location of poles will be mostly it will be in the your left half. Now zero if the direction of your this path and the main signal path are out of phase, then zero will lie in the right half plane, otherwise it will lie in the left half plane. Okay, now this concept I will use in the further circuits. So coming to slide number 16, the common source amplifier is shown here. Now if you see here, the main path is shown, which is going in this direction, and the signal path is going in this direction, and ideally the path should be like this. So these two are in out of phase, so zero is introduced, which is in the right half. And another way to calculate zero is the point where the signal becomes zero, the v out becomes zero. So this is one of the way to calculate. You equate your output to the ground, and from output to the ground you calculate the equation of this one, that is gmv1. The gmi is will be equals to this current, sum of this currents this at this node, the sum of this and this current will be zero. From there also we can predict what will be the sz, the zero location. So this is the what we say, this is the gain versus frequency plot. Now if you see, the gain is started at the first pole, there will be minus 20 dB decayed. Okay, as you have studied in the control system. Further, if suppose omega p2 is coming, then additional minus 20 dB will be introduced. So this minus 20 will change to minus 40. Now when the zero comes, plus 20 dB is there, so minus 40 becomes minus 20 dB. So this way we predict what will be the nature of the output, the gain equation curve with respect to frequency. Okay. So coming to slide 17. Now again here if you see, this was the equation. Here the RD is infinite. In this example, the RD is infinite. So when we calculate the transfer function using exact analysis, we will get this form. So here if you see the change, what is happening here, if this is the standard equation, this is the standard equation, and this is calculated. So directly here also we can do, if we substitute RD infinite, then this can be converted in this form. So thing you see here the s square is there, here s is there, so I can take here s common. So s common means one of the pole is lying at the origin, so one pole is at the origin, and then what is the another pole? Another pole is the remaining part. So when one pole is at the origin, the curve will start right from the zero axis. A minus 20 dB decade will be seen, but in the earlier there was a constant source, because the no pole was at the origin, but here it is the at the origin. Okay, so it is a marginally stable. So here pole is starting from the origin, so minus 20 dB. After certain frequency, a minus 40 dB will come because of introduction to the this second pole, omega p2. Then further, due to the introduction of 0, this will again change to minus 20 dB. Okay, so this starting curve here, how to start? It is predicted based on the location of poles. That was the pole analysis is important. Whether my circuit, now what is the conclusion drawn from here? That my one pole is at the origin. This means little bit noise. If a small noise is also coming, so if a small noise is also coming, then what will happen? Circuit will, if my location of pole slightly goes to the right half, then circuit becomes unstable. This means when I am looking at the output curve or any curve, when I am there, some oscillations will be seen in the graph. This means my circuit is having somewhere the disturbance in the location of pole from the left half to right half. So in this circuit, the chances of instability is more compared to the previous circuit. Okay, so here earlier also we have seen using current source we can decrease the voltage headroom. They have a certain advantage, but if we go for the frequency analysis, we see the instability is more in this case. Okay, so we need to know always the poles location. Now hereafter, now we are not doing calculations, we are roughly estimating how many poles and how many zeros. Okay, a shortcut method just for the analysis part. For example, if a source follower is designed, so this is a source follower circuit. Okay, our input is given at the gate and output is taken from the V out. So if we need to calculate, we just draw the small signal. Somewhat CGD is introduced, which will come here, and this VDD is grounded. So the CGD will come here directly. Now, how many capacitance is seen here? If you see here, this is one node at X, capacitance will be there. At Y also, the load capacitance is there. So this means there are two nodes and two different capacitances are there. That means there will be two poles. Okay, there will be two poles. Now for the zero, whether any feed forward path is there. So if we see the signal X will transfer through M1 in this direction, and a signal from X to Y will transfer through this CGS in this direction. So at the output node, there are two paths through M1 and through CGS. So this means there is a feed forward path through CGS. Now when there is a feed forward path, this means there will be one 0. Okay. Now what we see, the main signal direction and the feed forward direction both are in the same form. This means 0 will be in the negative part. Okay. Now look at the transfer function. Now in the transfer function, if you see S square term is here. S square means it is representing two poles, and here a single S means it is a left half plane 0. Okay, so from here we can say that there are two poles and one 0, where 0 is lying in the left half plane. Okay, so this way we do the shortcuts to analyze. One more example I will take for you. Now look at this circuit. Don't look at transfer function, just look at the circuit. Now if you look at the circuit, how many nodes are there? Node X and node Y. Okay, other than this, no nodes are there. Node X will have some capacitance due to M1, that is CGD, and somewhat CXY. So a pole will be introduced at this point. So here will be one pole, here will be one pole. So it will have two poles. Okay, whether any 0 will be there. So what I see, this is the signal path. This is a signal path. Another signal path is through CXY. So definitely there is just one 0, and the direction are same. So it is in the left half plane. So it is in the left half plane. Now look at the transfer function. S square is there. So two poles and 0 is the left half plane. Okay. Now coming to the common gate. Now in the common gate, if you see how many nodes are there at M1 and at V out. So there are two nodes, and at two nodes there are two capacitances. Okay, because this VV will be grounded. So one capacitance will come here with respect to ground, another capacitance will come here with respect to ground. So this means this will have two poles definitely. Now any zeros will be there. So what I see here, this CGD is going to ground, this is also going to ground. There is no feed forward path, there is no feed forward, so no zeros are there, so no zeros. This is the estimation. Now look at the transfer function. What we see here, s is here, s is here, so there are two poles, but there is no zero, there is no zero, so our assumptions were correct. Okay, so whatever we are doing roughly estimating how many poles and how many zeros. The location we don't know, but we can say that the whether any zero is lying in the right half plane or everything is going well when I am doing any circuit design. Okay, so actually whatever whenever we design circuit, in between we do all these analysis so that our work is not wasted. If suppose at some instant of time we reach to the final circuit and in between only the instability arises, then we are just wasting our time. So whenever we are doing a multi-stage amplifier, a complex circuit analysis, at each stage we try to ensure that our design is going in a stable manner. Okay, now this is another example. In this example, if you see, there are two nodes at the input, this node let's say x, and at the output v out. So again it will have two poles. Okay, and this r naught is there, so Miller can be applied here. So there are two poles, and how many zeros? Again no zeros will be here. Okay, so again we see here there are s square term means two poles are there and no zeros are there. Okay, now we move to the multi-stage. So multi-stage will go for cascode. Now cascode, what is cascode? Common source with a common gate. So this is your common source amplifier, this is your common gate amplifier. Now here we'll assume how many poles and zeros. So where is my output? Output is here and input is here. Okay, so between input and output you see how many nodes are there? Node y, node x, and this is node z. Okay, so three nodes are there and three capacitance will be there, so we will have three pole here. Okay, now any zeros will be there, so from input this will be grounded, no path. From here feed forward came this z. From z what happened, it went to x. From x it went to vv and vv is grounded, so no connection of v out. This means no feed forward path is there. Since no feedward path means no zeros will be there. Okay, this I am doing rough estimate. Maybe zero can be analyzed if we do exact, but most probably it will not come. Okay, a is not a node. 1 minute. In which slide? Oh yeah, a is a node, definitely a is also a node. 1 minute. Rs. Yes, sorry, at not at z, node will be at a, because this is the Miller capacitance, so Miller capacitance here also one capacitor will come, node a. And what will happen, this x and this node where I have written z, they both are equal to each other. Okay, because it is a sorted part, sorry for misspelling. X and z are at the same point, so total nodes will be 3a, x and y, so three nodes, three poles will be there. Okay, any doubt more in this slide? Right, now coming to the 23 slide number 23, differential pair. So here in the differential pair, what is the effect of capacitance that we have to see here. So this is the differential pair, and for the analysis part a half circuit method is used. So this is your common source amplifier, CGD is there, CGS, all the capacitance is introduced here. So when we calculate the differential gain, the simple, it is a differential gain. Earlier we have covered common source, this CGD will take part from Miller's capacitance will come here, and then we can predict what will be the V out by V in ratio, the gain. Now when we do the common mode signal analysis, the common mode signal already we have done from the differential amplifier, we got this equation. So only difference, if you see the, it will come here, is this P node will experience a CP capacitance. Okay, and this RD will experience some load capacitance. Okay, CL means this CDB. If no additional capacitance is there, this CL nothing is your CDB. Okay, so only the change will come that RD will be this one, and your RS will be changed to this one. Okay, so this is just to give you idea that if suppose I am operating at low frequency, then AVCM will be equals to the AVCDM what we have done earlier. But if we move to the higher frequency, this factor will give some changes in the equation, and then my CMRR will change. Okay, this means if suppose we are design any circuit and we have done DC analysis, and I said my CMRR is good or very high, you can use this circuit if you do perfect matching. But it is not always true. At some stage, what will happen, the capacitance will overrule your these calculations, the equations, and your CMR can change. Okay, then this is your current mirror based differential pair. Again there, what if this was the case of simple resistive load, and this is the case of, suppose current mirror is there, then how many poles will be there? So in this majorly there will be two poles, one is called at node E and another will be at V out. So this is called mirror pole because it is a current mirror, so that's why the name is given a current mirror. So mirror pole will be there and output pole. And then the calculations are shown because this is widely used in circuit designing, because generally always we need a single ended amplifier. So here it is shown that let's say some CE capacitance is formed, and then the small signal equivalent is drawn, that CL is there, and then CE capacitance is there, the equivalent, and it is into no GMB effect because it is a PMOS, so only GMP is coming. Similarly, earlier in the current where we have done the same circuit is there, only with slight change in the introduction of capacitors are there. So here calculations are shown that what will be the V out and V in ratio. So here if you see, so you coming this one. Okay, how many poles will be there? Let's analyze the poles. How many poles? So I know here two nodes are there, node E and node out. So there are two nodes, there definitely there will be two poles. Okay, now how many zeros can be there? So zeros are calculated when we are propagating from input to the output. So this is the input, this input signal is replicated via E to the M4, and from M4 the signal is going to this node, output node, and my signal path is going like this one. So here a zero is formed here, so one zero will be also there in the circuit. Okay, because of existence of feed forward part due to M4, and M4 means it is carrying the signal which is given by signal M1 transistor to the current mirror. So in the transfer function you will get a 0. Okay, and there are two poles in the system. So one is output pole, one is called a mirror pole. So this is called your mirror pole, and this is the output pole, and a 0 in the magnitude. Okay, 0 is given. So basically in this chapter we have seen that in the any circuit how many poles can be there, and if the poles are there any zeros will be there. These all are done to ensure my circuit is stable or not, but for the exact location of poles and zeros we have to go through a small signal model. So if you see here just a small circuits gives you so complex equations, then how to do the bigger analysis when there are like number of transistors increases. With the introduction of number of transistors, what will happen, the number of capacitors will be introduced. If the number of capacitors are there and number of nodes are increasing, definitely number of poles will be increasing. Higher the number of poles, complex is the equation, and more the number of poles, then we need to ensure all the poles should be in the left half. So that's why this Miller's theorem is widely applicable when we do a complex circuit analysis. So this was all about in this frequency response. Now in the next chapter we'll go for the feedback circuits. Feedback circuits means if suppose some gain is going in unbounded condition, so how to reduce that gain and make to the desired level, that things will be covered in feedback circuits. So hope you have understood this chapter. So for any doubt you kindly post your doubts and I will give you the answer. Okay. So thank you for being with me, and That's all from my side. Any queries right now, if you have, you can post it. Please update my midterm marks in Excel sheet. Okay. Yeah, any doubt from your side? Whether my all the slides were visible to you? Any buffering or any issue came? Any shortcomings in the presentation or video, you please tell, so that in the next class it should not come again. Okay then. Thank you all. Take care. Okay. Again, we will meet on Wednesday, and in each class, maybe it can extend 1 hour also. Just we'll try to complete the chapters as early as possible, and then what we can do, we can go through the topics briefly, and any doubt you can post, and we will have some discussion only on doubts also. Thank you everyone. Now I am closing this. Okay.